Thank you so much for joining us for this installment of MagicA11y Live, where we'll be discussing how AI is impacting accessibility. For those of you who don't know, MagicA11y Live is a series of events that we're hosting in which we'll pick one accessibility topic each time and take a deep dive into it. My name is MagicA11y. I'm an accessibility professional here at Magic, and I am joined by two of Magic EdTech's wonderful other accessibility professionals, Erin and Tarveen. Erin, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Erin Evans. As we were just discussing, I enjoy baking and watching sunrises and sunsets on the beach. And I am happy that you guys are here as we dive in today about what's happening in AI and accessibility. Tarveen?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining and thanks for all your contribution towards Ellie World. And yes, we will be talking about the buzzword that's AI and how it's transforming accessibility and ensuring inclusivity. Let's dive into the session.
Alrighty, so just some housekeeping before we begin. So to start, we'll talk for about 25 minutes to a half hour about AI within accessibility, and then we'll go into a QA portion. There is a QA tab at the bottom of the screen. You can click that and submit any of your questions there, and we will address them all at the end. Closed captions are also enabled, so if you need to or would like to use them, you can go ahead and click the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Alrighty, so to start off, we have a quote for us. AI has the power to amplify human potential, and it's our responsibility to ensure that this potential is accessible to all. And this came from Microsoft AI for Accessibility. Alrighty, and our agenda for the day. First, we'll talk about understanding artificial intelligence. Then we'll talk about AI within accessibility. We'll talk about the landscape of AI in EdTech, ensuring accessibility with human collaboration, nurturing AI for accessibility, future trends and innovations, and then our question and answer session. Alrighty, so first we'll just dive into a little general information about AI. So AI is a machine's ability to perform cognitive functions that we associate with human minds, such as perceiving, reasoning, listening, interacting, problem solving, and even exploring creativity and creative options. Some places that we've seen AI previously that you may be familiar with are Siri and Alexa. These are kind of the more widely used versions of AI currently. And then we also see chatbots, like if you go into websites, a lot of the times there will be help chatbots that you can interact with that are also forms of AI. Within the accessibility world, we have also seen something that has been launched by ChatGPT called Be My Eyes, which is an open AI-based technology that will answer any questions about images that are provided with visual assistance or a wide variety of tasks. So this can be useful for people that have color blindness or blindness in general in identifying objects and colors, things like that. I can go ahead and drop that link here if anyone is interested. And I think we have a poll to get started for you. Oh. All right, so our poll is, which AI model is specifically designed to create content? Your first option is rule-based AI. Your second option is statistical AI. Your third option is machine learning. And your fourth option is generative AI. So we'll give you a minute to go ahead and answer that. All right, and most of you answered generative AI. Erin, did you want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, we can pop over to the next slide. So it's really important to kind of like get a foundation of the different AI models when we're talking about what's out there. And what we have on the screen here are four models that are used most frequently. So we have generative AI, machine learning, deep learning, and conversational AI. So generative AI, as we just saw in the poll, is where you kind of do an input in, input out. You're generating that content. It's something where the AI is learning the patterns and the structure of the input, training the data, and then you get your output. Machine learning is a branch of AI that focuses on using data and algorithms to imitate the way a human is going to think and how that human is going to learn and do something better. So you think about image recognition, speech recognition, predictive text, those are examples of machine learning where, like think about on your cell phone where you've got you're texting somebody and you get the pop-ups of what they think the next word is going to be. That's the machine learning your style and how it's going to share forward. Deep learning is connected to machine learning. All of these are obviously connected to each other, but deep learning is when you really dive into that machine learning and you're thinking more about things like virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa, moving into translations or even into facial recognition. So you're taking those algorithms and what you've learned and you're able to pull it all together in a deeper way, hence the deep learning name. The last one that we're talking about here is conversational AI. So Anjali referred to chatbots. You see those on a lot of different websites. That is where the computer has learned how to have that conversation with humans and how to answer in a way that doesn't sound necessarily like Rosie from the Jetsons speaking in her robotic voice, but it is giving that feedback. So it really does seem like you're interacting with an actual human when in reality you're interacting through this conversational style. Parveen, was there anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I think you covered it really well. One thing is that we have all the models available. We just need to figure out that what is our need and which model fits in best to our requirement, and then plan to integrate. That's what our goal should be.
All right, Parveen, do you want to talk to us a little bit about AI within accessibility?
Sure. Thank you, Anjali. As we know that AI has a potential to break barriers and ensure inclusivity across, and we have seen a lot of transformation happening through technologies and new applications. And Anjali has already covered and shared the information around Be My Eyes. And I'll be talking more about each one of them. So as we know that in terms of technology, we have a lot of things that are being transformed and people are getting more independent and getting more information around what's going on and how things can be changed. For example, for visual disability, we know that we have various applications like Be My Eyes and then AI driven screen readers, image recognition. So it gets very easy for us to access anything that's around. For hearing disability, we know that we have automated closed captioning that's being used, and we have auto voice meeting notes that help you generate live notes. You don't need to write down anything, or you don't need to have any assistance while attending any of the meetings. For speech disabilities, we have natural interaction, a lot of communication that goes into for speech disability, and you can easily interact with the systems. For motor disability, we have all these screen readers and other assistants. So as we talk about the Lookout application by Google, it is to assist visually impaired people for identifying objects, reading text, navigating to the surrounding, and it gets like you feel the independence while using this content, like this application. Then Seeing AI is again by Microsoft. This leverages AI to narrate the world to individual. Now it again does the same thing but by different companies, and it also reads the text, recognizes objects, enhance navigation and engagement. Wheelmap, I really love this application. It is again an AI driven application that enables wheelchair users to navigate, understand the environment, and walk through with the confidence. So, how easy in different units and parts AI is enabling and ensuring compliance, but it has its own nuances and complexities that we'll be talking in the upcoming slides. So we just need to not need to blindly rely on what's being published or sent across. We just need to absorb, understand, and ensure that integrity, authenticity, everything is being maintained while picking up these kind of applications and models. Erin, do you want to add anything on this slide?
No, I think you covered it really well. And I think, what you just said was, we'll dive into a little bit more. Very great tool, not something that we just look at without considering what else does it need to learn to be better?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, ladies. All right, I think we have another poll for you. So the poll reads, what ethical consideration should be taken into account when using AI and EdTech for accessibility? Your first option is ethical considerations are irrelevant when it comes to AI and EdTech. Your second option is AI should replace human educators entirely to ensure fairness. Your third option is AI solutions should be free from bias and provide equitable opportunities. And your fourth option is AI should prioritize the need for human intervention in accessibility. I'll give you just a minute to go ahead and submit your answers.
We have a lot of transformations happening in EdTech, and we'll be covering each of them in the upcoming slides. So this is just to seek inputs around.
All right, and most of you answered AI solutions should be free from bias and provide equitable opportunities. Amazing.
So let's dive into what we're seeing across EdTech in relation to AI. So on the screen here, we have 10 different topics that we're going to kind of run through with little images above each of the topics. So we'll start with personalized learning. So AI is there to analyze a student's learning patterns and progress. And you can see how this is going to help guide a student or guide an instructor on where that student can go next. And you also may see that, I mean, some of these are all related to each other, but when you're working through how your student is learning or programs where, hey, I've done well here, and I think the next best place for you to go will be here based on the patterns that you have shown.
Yes. So moving on to the next one, that's automated grading. Now, think about how easy and effective it could have been when you are being graded right while you're reading or performing a task. The real-time feedback or assistance to the user really helps them to remember. And that's what automatic grading and assessment is enabling. And we have seen, like the analysis states that we have seen the increase in the overall performance of the students with this AI-enabled feature within grading system.
We also have language translations, which we've talked about a few times previously, and having that built in really beneficial, especially if you're in a classroom where you have multiple languages that are being spoken by the students or even by the professors. And it is a way to help ensure the understanding. And it's, you know, as with everything, when we're talking about accessibility, it's not just used for students with different disabilities, but these different innovations in AI and EdTech can support all users. Another one that's on this list is the data-driven insights that are there to, again, identify those trends and patterns, right? It's some of that machine learning of saying, how is this working? What have I learned from this? How can I start giving you better information that you're looking for in those insights? Tarveen?
Then virtual classrooms and learning assistants. Yes, we have seen how virtual labs enable user to do all kind of combinations, and the output that gets generated really simulating the real learning and enabling user to be independent and doing all the required combination and explore what comes with what combination. So it's again a very engaging and similar way when we talk about educational gamification, having engaging games, motivating grading systems, collecting the stars or rewards. We have seen the transformation with AI, capturing all the information, then giving the complexity level increases with the time duration and how student is being performing. All of these is being tracked through AI engines.
The next piece on the list is early intervention and support. We're seeing where AI is being used to help identify those students who are struggling and identifying them earlier on, again, based on the patterns and the recognition of what their inputs are through different software programs and whatnot, and being able to call those out, identify these are the patterns that are being seen, and then that then allows the administrators or the teachers to step in sooner and provide the support that they would need.
Yes, then comes the intelligent tutorials. Now, what happens is you are finding it difficult to understand the algebraic equation or how to solve it. Then these AI models help you get into the granular level of understanding and in depth, and then the real time breaking of the complex problem statement and then reaching to final solution is also one new change that is coming into the edtech.
Another one that is on here is content creation. Going back to the generative AI, students being able, you've probably heard about students using ChatGPT and whatnot, but it's, again, those are tools that are out there and in place, and it's also being used internally for teachers and administrators as they're building up their courses and the stuff that they're putting out there. And then finally, we have accessibility.
So we have a lot of things when combined to accessibility, but yes, there is no foolproof solution that transform like in edtech. And the biggest challenge is ensuring authenticity and securing the rights that you have to reserve that data or the content that you have created. So we don't need to blindly rely on these models and just push our content and get everything sorted. So data security has a very vital role to play. But yes, we have started seeing transformations in accessibility, and challenges we'll be talking in upcoming slides.
Yep. So let's dive in a little bit to what the next slide on here, which is ensuring accessibility between the AI and human collaboration. So we've touched on this, and we're going to continue to elaborate on this, that, there is no replacement for humans, and the AI is artificial, and it can only be as smart as the people and the processes that it's trained on and trained by. So the three different line items that we have up here: synergizing AI and human expertise. So, it's really understanding that the machine will give you some information. The human is the one that is refining that information. It's still a really young technology. I know it has been around, but it's not in a place where it's something that everybody can rely on without even thinking about it. There are a lot of things that it cannot do yet, which is where the humans come in and help, again, refine the outcomes, but also refine the learning and help the continuous trainings of the machines. It's also, there's the ability for the mutual enhancement, right? So AI is there to support human accessibility testing, while the human insights are always there. So let's, in relation specifically to accessibility and the accessibility testing, right? Think about the tools, the automated tools that are out there that we use for accessibility testing. Love them. They're great tools. They give really good insights, but there's always that need for a human manual review, follow-up, refinement of the information, because one thing that we can definitely say is no two problems are the same in accessibility. And as you start to dive into it, you'll see places where you might be able to start with information that is generated through the tools, but you're then going to want to dive in on that human review. And one really important thing to consider and just remember is that, this is not going to go away. It's a new technology. So we're all still learning how to work with it to ensure to make it better.
Absolutely. All right. Charmaine, can you talk to us a little bit about nurturing AI for accessibility?
Yes, as we have already covered and talked about it, that the models are still not ready because, again, we are at the step one where we have been struggling to get the products remediated now because accessibility wasn't ingested into system. Similar way, accessibility has not been embedded into the models or the data that have been used to train these models. So if you expect the outcome to be fully accessible, it will not be. So for example, I have heard that people have started using the AI tools to generate the line of code, but the line of code are not the codes that are being WCAG compliant. So we are again at step one, and then we need to move back like entire circle to reach where we want to be. So the biggest challenges that we have seen is data quality and representation. Because the data is not trained, it doesn't cater to the diverse needs, so it will not give you the output that is compliant to all type of people. It doesn't ensures inclusion. Second is compliance with standards. AI systems doesn't adhere to the WCAG standards. You need to pick up the model, train the model, enable it with the data set so that the outcome that it generates is WCAG compliance and can be used across in your organizations. Then diversity and inclusion, it's the biggest problem. I have personally gone through few of the like conversations with ChatGPT and found that it is not giving the diverse information. It creates barriers, to be very true. So again, the system is not trained. That's the biggest challenge. Let's ensure that the engine or the model that we pick up, we train them, ensure inclusivity, diversity, guidelines are being catered into the data sets, and then start using it. And one thing, whatever we use, whatever we do, human review is not going anywhere. I have seen, it's been long that people say that you can generate the alt text through the automated process, just upload the image, get the alt. No, that's not actually possible. You don't need to start from the scratch while using this data-driven models, but still there's a work that needs to happen to ensure, yes, whatever we are doing is meeting the actual core content, and the pedagogy needs to be retained for anything that you deliver.
Yeah, and just to reiterate and add on, you made a very good point that the inputs that the machines have been trained on specific to accessibility. If you think about websites, right, 99% of websites are not accessible. So it's being trained on inaccessible content. So to your point, Tarveen, you can't expect a line of code to come out to be teaching you what that accessible code should be. It could be correct. That's not saying it's not, but you definitely would want to review that. And it's really important to understand when we're talking DEI, everybody has a different bit of perspective, and what people in one area of the world consider a diverse perspective may not be the same as another area. So you also have to take into consideration, what are your needs? What are your definitions? What are your expectations? And I almost want to say lower your expectations when it starts coming to AI, because it's not going to give you what you want the first time. You have to keep working with it. And again, that's where that human need and human intervention is super important and comes into play.
Thank you, Erin.
All right. So I think we have another poll for you. How does AI contribute to accessibility? Your first option is AI replaces the need for human intervention in accessibility. Your second option is AI can automate tasks like alt text and audio description generation. Your third option is AI eliminates the need for accessible design in websites and applications. And your fourth option is AI provides unbiased solutions to create equitable content. We'll give you a minute to go ahead and answer. Alrighty. And it said most of you answered AI can automate tasks like alt text and audio description generation, which is correct.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the future trends and innovations that are out there specific for accessibility with AI. And even further, what that looks like in relation to compliance and alignment to the WCAG standard. So we just mentioned that AI can support the audio description with videos, right? It can generate, there are different models out there that can more or less look at what's happening on the screen and generate audio description content for what AI sees, right? So that, again, human intervention. Closed captions, we've seen closed captions being generated by AI for a while. Oftentimes, AI might get confused by two, and two, right? Like, so you may want to understand how is the word two being written and generated in relation to the video, or that it is putting those captions on. We talked in our previous session about ways AI can be used when you're looking at color contrast and how to support the validation and recommendations moving forward. There are ways that AI can be out there to support name, role, and value. That's a machine learning and understanding what is right about this or what is wrong. Another example of machine learning is how to properly provide information on coding for tables. Different table headers, table columns, row headers, column headers. How do those, especially complex tables, machine learning? What are examples of accessible tables that I can show the machine, and then how can the machine help me learn how to provide an accessible table? Repeating that none of these are examples for the replacement for humans. These are ways that AI can be trained and support reviews and support creation as it gets smarter. It will never replace the human intervention, the human review, the human thinking part of what it is we're doing, but it can support. It's like a tool, just like we mentioned earlier, the other automated tools out there. It's not going away. It is definitely something that we want to lean into and understand how to work with it, not working against it. But there's no one quick answer, no one quick fix when it's going to come to how is AI going to be embedded and used in these types of situations. Tarveen, is there anything on there that you would like to add?
No, I think this is what it is, and we are expecting a lot of transformation around these guidelines, because AI models can be trained well enough to get these outcomes with accuracy, but it will not gonna happen overnight. It is a journey, because getting the data set trained, enabling the quality outcomes is a task that needs to be done.
Absolutely, ladies. Thank you so much for that. Alrighty, and I think we're about ready for our Q&A session. We already have some questions lined up. So we'll start at the bottom and move to the top. So the first question that we have is from Sonia, and she said, what tools provide accurate alt text generation?
So I don't think any tool provides accurate alt text generation. And I'm speaking from experience. And I would say, I saw in the chat, Valerie and John also mentioned that, AI hasn't progressed far enough to be trusted with alt text or audio description. And I think I completely agree. So when you're thinking about don't think so much about what tools provide that accurate generation, but more what tools can be used to generate a alt text that I can review. There are different learning models out there that you can do that. I mean, if you don't have any concerns about the intellectual property of an image, you could just pop it into ChatGPT or any OpenAI, Bard, anything that is out there for the world to see, and you will get an image description back. Will it be accurate? Probably not. Will you want to review it? Yes, please. So it's very likely that tools are going to develop over time, and it is also very likely, and we're starting to see it emerge in the market, that AI is being used to support the generation of alt text and long descriptions, and that's not a bad thing. But again, there's always going to need to be that review because you don't know how that image is necessarily being used in context. And while you could feed in the context to AI, you still then have to teach AI, yes, you did this correctly, or no, that's not what we meant. So it's an ongoing process, and we're just at the beginning of that journey.
And just to add here, thank you, Erin, that we have a lot of tools in the market. We are not denying to the fact, but accuracy and understanding the contextual text, like why this is being written, what needs to be conveyed when compared to the content written along with the images is very important. So having a SME along with whatever tool you finalize or train for your images is very important. But accuracy, no tool is giving accurate result. I myself has explored a lot of tools. So they'll give you basic, like there is a dog, but what that dog is doing, why that dog is there on an image, is no tool is giving that information.
All right. Thank you so much. Our next question is, do you have any reliable sources about AI and accessibility?
Reliable sources, we have resources from the research that we've done when we did this, prepared for this presentation. And I'm not sure when you're looking for reliable, Mary, exactly what you would classify as reliable. A lot of the information is still new, and there are definitely sites that like business and the ed tech research magazine, sorry, I'm looking for the word in my head, that sites where we've pulled information from in regards to the business that we're working in. So we can definitely share some of our resources if that would support what you're looking for.
Mary, there is a lot of news every day because we know that it's changing like in a click, and you hear, yes, ChatGPT 4 has this, ChatGPT 3 has this, but what exactly you are looking into is the question, and we can surely help you get to the required sources. But yes, then exploring those sources to ensure you are getting the accurate result is another job to do.
Yeah. And I saw in the chat, Joel had mentioned, this is all good, but I'm concerned that there's no caution, let alone mention of data privacy, especially the students. So I think I did hear Tarveen mention data privacy at one point, but you are 100% correct that how is the data that AI is using being managed, and how is it being protected, and how is it being used ethically? And I can honestly say that at Magic, that has been the biggest conversation that we've been having as we've been looking through how to harness AI, because we know that that is a huge part of this. And in the industry in general, you've already seen or possibly have heard the inventor of ChatGPT saying, whoa, we need to like put some reins on this, right? And in the United States, Congress has already started talking about what are some guardrails that we can put around this to make sure that these are all being used ethically. And while I don't have the answers, I can tell you that those are conversations that are happening both within Magic and within the ed tech community.
That's right, Devin.
All right. Xavier asked, if the programmers of AI have bias, then the AI will as well. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That's the reason I've shared earlier as well, that please ensure that the data that you have like ingested into the model, you get it tested before start using it. Either get your data sets embedded into what's already existing and then work on the outcomes. So you can't rely on what's there in the market, and it will not suffice your needs for sure.
Alrighty, Mary asked, I think this may be a naive question, but how do we help train AI? Admittedly, I've only dabbled with it briefly.
Okay. So training AI itself is a job to be done by the developers who have good knowledge around Python and different languages. We ourselves train our data models through Python and ingest the required information. You need to have tons of data to train the model and then get the outcome of it. So that's the process we follow. It's all the more related to the coding and the data sets that you embed into your entire library.
We don't just send it to school.
Yes.
All right, another question from Xavier. Will only higher level programmers be responsible for controlling the AI software?
Absolutely, you need to have in-depth code level knowledge. But what we do within our organization, we have different roles defined. So the data people are getting the data ready, the developers are developing the tool and ingesting that data, but accessibility people and other folks have their role to play to ensure the data set that we are generating or creating is meeting the required compliance. So that's what our role is. So that's the way we say that in the product level development life cycle, we need to have a QA role, accessibility role, design role, all of these defined. Similar way, during this model, we need to ensure all the roles and requirements are being captured to train that data.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Xavier also asked, is there a basic AI software available for purchase in the retail market yet? I'm thinking finance and accounting use.
It's difficult to answer because of data security. Finance has all the more very strict laws for how data is being secured, how things are being even circulated across or being tested, because data security in finance and accounting plays a very, very, very vital role. And then what I would recommend is, instead of getting onto any of the other tool, unless they have a model that is trained in-house, your data is not getting exposed to the world, it's better to offer that. Otherwise, purchase a basic model, then train it, then put up all the security layers, and then you should be using it.
Alrighty. Robert says, anybody working on an accessibility overlay that allows for a screen reader user to ask questions about an image, ? For instance, it might provide a default alt text, a cat and a dog, but the user could ask what breed is the dog, or is the dog on the right of the cat, and the answer would be presented through a liver region? Live
region.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to read that. I'm going to take a quick second to read that again. So you said accessibility overlay, my brain stopped for a minute, but I think what you're saying is, when you're talking about AI generated alt text and it's just giving you basic, this is an image of a cat or a dog, is it possible to then be able to dive in farther with that image, to be asking it for more information? And I think that's, I haven't personally seen that yet. That doesn't mean that it's not out there or in discussion. But that, Tarveen, is that something that you've seen or have heard of in the industry?
No, I haven't seen, but as we talked about Be My Eyes and other tools, I have recently seen a video. There's device that gets connected to your specs, and it reads on all the images and recognizes the content, but there is no overlay that gives you information around what's there on the image, and then you can ask for it. There's no two-way kind of a communication that's happening right now.
So maybe something to think about, for something to look forward as we're talking about innovations and what could happen as we move forward with AI.
All right. And Simra, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, said, so as end users, how do we ensure the right data set is used for our purpose? If we are not data experts or not part of the accessibility team, what questions do we need to ask? Criteria, checklist, maybe?
Yeah, Semra, that's a really great question. I'm not a software engineer, full disclosure. And I think that a large part of it is doing research and training, just so you have that information on your own part. I think the idea of a criteria checklist is really a really good idea to understand what are your goals. And I would think from a learning back by design, like thinking backwards perspective, right? Like, what is the outcome you're looking for? So my end goal is this kind of we'll use AI generated alt text as an example. I need this alt text to tell me who's in the image, what year the image, and what is happening in the background of the image. So when you're talking about how do I get there, you want to work with your software engineers, your prompt engineers, your editorial team, just thinking the people who are going to help you get there, and ask them what inputs would you give me to get to this output? And then you can use that information to pull together what you're looking for. In the world of this example, when you're talking about a generative type of AI, you would want to think about how can I give AI a prompt that's going to give me that information, and I get those outcomes that I'm expecting. So a lot of it is talking to other people outside of your field to learn what they know, and learning from each other, doing some trial and error on your own, and as you find the elements that work, developing that checklist, keeping it up, and sharing it and refining it as you go. Tarveen, is there anything you want to add on that?
No, I think you have covered it, Erin. The data set, again, the checklist is that these are the vocab guidelines that needs to be ingested along with the data set that you are creating. And we should randomly pick up few samples and get it reviews. That's what we do internally.
Alrighty. And our last question for the moment from Robert. Are there any collaborative efforts to train open source models for accessibility testing and remediation?
Erin, do you want to take it up?
I haven't come across any, but that's not to say that there won't be or that it's not going to happen. I would say when I think of collaborative efforts, I'm actually thinking the World Wide Web and training those models, right? We talked earlier about how a majority of what's out there from a website perspective is inaccessible, and how I know accessibility professionals, we're talking about this frequently. I see it on my LinkedIn feed a lot. We all know that what AI is trained on is not accessible. So the only way to help it learn is to give it accessible code. I haven't seen any sort of accessibility group consortium that is working to do that in that sense, but it's definitely a topic of conversation. And people who are invested in AI and advocate or accessibility and advocating for it are having these conversations. And I think it also depends on the model you're using, because going back to data privacy and the different ways that people can input and get the exports, if you're using your own model of AI, you have to train it on your own data, and you want to be careful about what information you're putting in, because information in, information out. So what are your guardrails that you have in place?
And I think, Erin, you have covered, and to be very true, Robert, this is a very good idea and should be taken along. But the biggest challenge I see is that everyone is working on their specific data set and requirement, and putting up guidelines, ensuring what has already been released will be a real big job to do. But yes, there should be a collaborative effort to be done to at least set up the basic guidelines to ensure that these models, when being trained, have the accessibility ingested from the beginning.
Absolutely. All right, Robert then said, so like people would provide examples of non-conformant code along with conformant version of the same code and have trained people double checking each other.
Yeah, I think that would be one way to help provide some information. You want to tell AI, here's what is correct, here's what's wrong, so now give me the correct code, and then confirm that it is correct. And you would need to do that over and over again for every little bit and piece, basically. And as Tarveen mentioned, every people are working with different requirements, different data sets. So it's not going to happen overnight, and it will definitely take time. So I see in the chat that somebody mentioned that they need universal guidelines for AI data set ingestion, and sure, we'll get right on that. I think that will take a little bit of time to get to for sure, but definitely a good idea.
It's a real good idea to be at least passed on to the leaders who are driving accessibility, for example, IAP or other W3C websites and even One EdTech, because they are the ones who enable and deliver these guidelines. So thank you. It's a superb initiative to be taken to ensure, yes, we are not struggling after a few years that where is accessibility, because we all have been contributing a lot to ensure that things are being done right.
Absolutely. All right. Now, I think those are all the questions we have for right now. While we see if anyone has any others, do we want to talk about our next session?
Sure.
Alrighty. So our next session is going to be EPUBs Beyond the Pages, A Journey to Accessible Digital Reading. And I will paste the link for the Zoom registration in the chat.
And that session will be on Tuesday, September 19th, and it's going to be 11 a.m., same time, same channel. Well, technically, same Zoom, probably different link. For those of you who love EPUBs.
Yes.
All right. We appreciate your attendance today. If you guys have any additional questions or think of something after this session, please send us an email at accessibility@magicedtech.com. As Tarveen and Anjali mentioned earlier, we will be sharing the recording and the deck that we've shared out in a few days with you guys, so you'll have access to this. And if you need anything else, we are always here for you. So we hope to see you at our next session.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.